Around the globe, when newspaper markets were losing its readers, Indian market on the other hand gradually gained readers year after year. And at a time when the prices of the newspapers were increasing, Times of India continued to keep it low.
I think it's the most commercial among the newspapers today, and I think the quality of journalism in Times has gone down quite a lot.
Okay, apart from what Times of India itself claims that it is and what people think it is, I have a different opinion. It is purely commercialized.
Certainly, if I don't read the Times of India, I just start feeling maybe I am missing something. Okay, and this is not necessarily a thing which is based on some objective view. I think it has got to do with the fact that one has been born with it and one has read it from childhood and this and that. That way, if you go to see Hindu, for example, is a much better paper. When I'm reading it, I find there's a lot more to be done.
After the editor J.E. Brennan, Robert Knight wore the hat of editor of Times of India, giving space to India's struggles such as the 1857 revolt in its news articles. After India gained independence, the original publishers sold its publishing unit to the industrialist Dalmia, and finally, in the year 1948, its current owners, the Jain family, took the reins.
I remember in school, my English teacher would read the editorials and read this thing and say, see, try and search a mistake in this. And we could not find a single mistake. Now, Times of India has decided that okay, it's not so important that they should be grammatically correct or the language should be good and whatever. There's a lot of contradictions, typos, that kind of stuff. This understanding of Times of India actually comes from some of the old legends in Times of India. Who earlier we used to have the stories like Lakshman for the cartoon. Then there was an old proofreader. Just used to go like this, used to sit down there. And Pradeep, my friend, showed me one day, see, he's the proofreader, and that's why you don't see. That's why just go like this, so close. It was like that. And so, that was the symbol for me of Times of India's accuracy.
In our conversations with our experts, namely Venkatesh Hariharan, Avinay Yadav, and John D'Souza, it emerged that TOI's story is clearly divided into then and now.
I mean, earlier the editors of Time used to be kind of prima donnas and superstars and rock stars and I think the pendulum shifted to one extreme, which was like very very editorial driven, with the editors being over and above the owners of the paper itself at times. But I think now the pendulum has gone completely to the other extreme, with the marketing being the be all and end all of Times of India, and the editorial being there to just fill the pages. So
Yes, it has done a great job, but that was pre-independence, and when Bennett and Coleman sold their paper to the Jain brothers, and it is Jain brothers that who brought commercialization and the whole of it. Be wrong to say that that Times of India forced the entire media industry to get advertised and commercialized.
Let's be very clear that when Times of India was owned by Bennett Coleman and Company, we saw Bennett Coleman as this benign owner, and Times of India was standing for itself. Now suddenly Times itself has become the brand, and a brand which they are exploiting, and very much you can see it every day at 9 o'clock. Times now keeps on exploiting that brand.
I think they've taught a lot of others how to manage a news business, but it's not that they were desperate enough to kind of sell the column inches to anybody who kind of comes in and advertises. So for financially, I think they've done a great job, but I think in terms of journalism, they've crossed many red lines that shouldn't have been crossed.
Times of India is the highest or the richest news media company in India, with a turnover of hundreds of crores and still going on.
You get so many other Times products. Um, Now they have Times Education, Times Youth Wing, Times whatever. And some of them seem to be very innocuous, but is not able to figure out actually this. What seems very clear to me is that the Times has decided that it is a money bag. It is the concept, the brand has got value in terms of money, and they will exploit.
I read Times of India, Mumbai Mirror, Indian Express, and Economic Times. So I get all these publications. And the only reason that I read TOI is because it does, an okay job of coverage, and Mumbai Mirror does a good job of the local news. So my interest in terms of what's happening locally gets covered by that. So that package of TOI and Mumbai Mirror has been okay for me. At the same time, I'm thinking that now I will shift, maybe cancel Times of India and buy DNA or something. I've been a journalist in the past. It's easy for me to see that this is paid news, but I think in some things, they are the world leaders in terms of blurring the boundaries between what is news and what is not news. So I think when they kind of when an organization like the Times does that, I think it's particularly egregious or condemnable. So, recently the coverage of the rape victim, etc., not be. So basically, they said that we will try to respect the rape survivor or rape victim's privacy, etc. But I think the way the coverage was done was not in tune with that. I think other publications did a much better job of that. There was an article in the Hoot which pointed out, how the Times coverage was far worse than that of other publications. So I think somewhere down the line, Times never had a reputation for standards in terms of journalistic ethics, and I so that kind of is something that really bothers me, and I've been a Times reader for many years, and I keep thinking maybe when I read articles like the Hoot saying that there is this kind of the coverage and the quality of coverage has not been great, then I wonder whether I should stick to it. See, I did appreciate some of the things that they did for things like Aman Ki Asha and encouraging local music, etc., etc. So in Bandstand they had some community events which are free and open to everybody. So those kind of things were nice. I think those kind of things are things that we should support and encourage. So some of the stuff that Times has done in terms of community engagement has been pretty good. Publishing in an economy which is a growing economy, so so from that angle, I think financially they are a very well managed group. So I mean, kudos to them for that aspect of running a publishing business. Do they want the Times of India group to be a global brand? That's possible, but do they want the Times of India magazine, the newspaper, to be a brand? That I think is a lot more, obviously quite difficult. I think readers should have the ability to discern what is paid news and what is not. And I think that's also true for a lot of other publications, So, they use euphemisms like some Outlook spotlight and those kind of things, which I don't agree with. If it is a bloody advertisement, say clearly that it's a bloody advertisement. Don't pussyfoot around that. And I think that should also be an issue that the Press Council of India takes up. I think there is no choice but to go digital. How do you monetize it is a different question. But if you look at online reading habits today, do I go to Indian Express online or Times of India online? Both are like such cluttered and such poorly designed online experiences. So today what I see is, I was on a flight and I was seeing that, the guys to the right of me and the guys to the left of me, all of them had tablets. And most of them were looking at first post. So I think digitally the thing is, what will happen is that a lot of readership is shifting online, and a lot of that online readership is being captured by digital publications like First Post. So then the question for Times of India, Indian Express, and other players is, are you in the news business or are you in the newspaper, the printed newspaper business? And it's a difficult question, because online revenues are not the same as print revenues. So how do you kind of make up for it? So it's a very traumatic transition for a lot of publications.
Everyone knows what Times of India has contributed, because Times of India publicizes so much about its contribution that it's obvious that everyone knows. And so I will talk about the negative contributions that Times of India has done. It has commercialized the whole news media industry. Times of India was the one that forced the whole news media industry in India to rely on advertising as their primary source of income. Like, if you do not advertise the way Times does, you lose your business, you lose the money, you lose the market. Because of this, many idealized newspapers and magazines had to shut down, because advertising, as we all know, influences the news flow and the agenda of any news house. Times of India is the biggest news media company in India, which attracts the largest amount of advertising, which allows it to publish as many pages as it wants. Secondly, Times of India has redefined the very notion that one must, or student or media analyst or a newspaper man must read the entire newspaper to know what is happening. But if you see the size of Times of India, its main sheet, its supplements, Mumbai Mirror, it becomes as thick as a book. And it becomes impossible for a person to read whole or even the majority of what is. Times of India has also brought in the culture of paid news. As we all know, Bombay Times is not a newspaper, but it is an advertorial. And you go ask any media professional, any newspaper man, he will tell you Times of India feeds less of news and more of sensationalism and bullshit news. It forces Bollywood news that we do not want to know. These dying people dying, small children dying in Calcutta because of a hospital fire occupies only a 4-inch or a 6-inch article space, whereas Aishwarya Rai's daughter's birth occupies the whole Bombay Times. Recently, Times of India claimed that Sanjay Dutt prefers reading TOI in jail. Excuse me, Sanjay Dutt is a criminal, and it is nothing less than popularizing or glamorizing that a criminal is preferring TOI, so it's a big thing. And we no longer view Sanjay Dutt or people like Salman Khan as criminals. We see them as heroes, superstars. Someone whom the nation loves. Okay, that may be the case, but at the same time they are also criminals. Why is there a need to glamorize them continuously? Why can't the papers, the Times of India, can also focus on the criminal aspects of actors like Sanjay Dutt and Salman Khan? The phenomena is the same as of the Congress. If you see the Indian political scenario, it's the same as Congress party. It's the oldest party. It's the first and the oldest party in the country. People have a trust, even after so bad doings of Congress party. It has still managed to be the largest political party in India. People have a trust. People do not, it is also it's the same with Times of India, that people think that it's been good, so it is good. And it could also be the reason that advertising is also a reason that they promote it in such a nice way that it seems that Times of India is the only good newspaper in the country. And another reason that people do not want to come out of their comfort zone of reading Times of India and trying any other newspaper. During the 70s, late 70s and the early 80s, that the whole phenomenon of advertising started, and slowly it became a business model. Advertising became the primary source of revenue of newspapers and news channels and magazines. And especially in the 90s, when the country was liberalized and FDI was allowed in India, and I think the main effect started from the 90s.
The biggest thing that Times of India brought was different ways in which they sold the space in the paper. And it's very disappointing. The whole notion of the newspaper, I mean, you'll see tons and tons of films, classic films where the newspaper rolls out, the headline comes, Aaj ki taza khabar kind of thing. And you see the actual headline, like Lahore, Indian Army enters Lahore, or emergency declared today. Those are the headlines that you see in the evening news we used to see. Now you don't have that because you'll see one ad, yeah, and or something which is cleverly done in this. So therefore, what you see is that the as a as an institution, it has devalued itself. So in that sense, Times of India has decided that it is going to be a commercial entity. So, see, I certainly feel quite cheated that the large sections of the paper have been devoted to editorials or those kind of things which seem to be like advertisement. It's just that I am critical watcher and maybe a reader because I associate, so I can distinguish those pages. Where I get very irritated is that when I know that certain parts which pretend to be part of page 1, page 2, page 3, not the new page 3, the old page 3 which was always the city page. Some of those pages are paid for. And this particular issue has become a major issue because finally, even on television and this kind of thing, they are saying very clearly, after all, this is a business. Therefore, whatever brings ads and whatever brings revenue, then we have to do that. Very much of a problem that the advertising and the business aspects of a newspaper should be separated from the editorial aspects, and that even that the borderline is deliberately blurred, so that it just seems like. I have got no problem with that, the fact that they have decided to change over to the culture of advertisement. I have only got a problem is that you pretend that you are still in the culture, right? So the nation wants to know or whatever, that kind of thing is what the problem is. And when you say, no, Baba, my ratings want to know. My ratings will go up if you tell me something nice and juicy is the thing. Everyone wants to increase their revenue and these guys are just going hammer and tongs and they have broken more rules, golden rules than anything else. Now they have taken the whole cover page, front page, so what the hell, what do I expect from them? You can easily ignore Times of India. I think what is news and what is the things that are relevant to me is something which I've not given to Times of India or to any other paper. I look at different things. For me, I don't look at Times of India as my full appetite for news. But yes, there are certain things, something that I find which are missing, I will always consult it. I will always look at it, glance it in the morning, whatever. Otherwise, probably it helps me in my motions. I can't remember any kind of campaign which is distinctly Times of India of late at all. I've never seen campaigns as really connected with the newspaper actually. Okay, let me put it this way. The speaking tree kind of logic that came, I think that was a good kind of campaign. But I don't associate any of these current campaigns with any of these fellows. In fact, I criticize quite a lot of this. So I don't think of these campaigns as Times-led or this thing like. That's what they want to tell you. We were the first to come with this news and we were the first. Actually, I don't see much difference. Times of India has already morphed digital. It has got good digital presence, it has got TV presence, it is getting into entertainment industry, it is everywhere. So, and it has exploited that part which you are saying, Times brand. And as much as possible. In fact, they have taken all the juice out of that. Now the brand is evening out. See, I don't know what will happen in the next generation. So, the generation that I come from, I'm not happy with, even though my computer I open and I can read many more newspapers, Guardian, there is that, and whatever online, BBC News, there is that. I'm not happy completely till I actually read the newspaper, spend 1 hour, just looking at various things. Maybe even looking at the ads and things. Is there a danger of digital technologies replacing
print, exactly.
That it depends on the way in which people view their thing. So, more people are reading, getting their news from Facebook today or from gossip than was before. So, for me, I would still think newspapers will work for a long time because besides just the act of the newspaper is not just a very clinical engagement with news or engagement with knowledge or daily kind of briefing, you know. The reason for that is the way in which you interact with that medium. So I don't think you can clinically relate to news. You make the norm of a sports person, you know, equivalent to that of, say, Shah Rukh Khan saying something. So they have to behave in a particular way. It's like part of the contract. Na? Thou shalt not be a sportsman unless thou art glamorous. Mm, that's all. That's what, and that has been created by these additional three. Because otherwise, why would anyone read the newspaper sports column? Nobody wants to read it because I already know everything that has happened. I've either heard it the previous day in the news because it's not whatever. The morality of Times of India deciding to change over to the brand is it tells you the morality of the society as well as the person is deciding that they'll go along with that morality. So it is a culture of advertisement. We all have accepted it. We all have this thing. And if you want to define a new law of journalism, a new culture of journalism, then first and foremost, a new breed of people who want to engage in media who have to get out of the current economic system, current competitive ratings, this, that. So I am very, the new media, the digital media has opened out a possibility where, say, 3 or 4 of y'all can come together and say, okay, we are going to give you other media and we are not going to compete with each other for stories, we are only going to cooperate. I may start the story, somebody else might end it or whatever, but that doesn't make a difference. And I don't know how it will work out economically. That is something that you all have to work out, not us. We are dying on. Okay. Be that as it may. That was the favorite line in Times of India edits at that time. Be that as it may, this is what